You didn't choose to come here today. You decided much, much earlier. You decided when you made your first pencil stroke, when you chose your favorite color, the day you discovered what is beautiful and what is not. The first time you were told you're talented. This is why you are here now. Because it's not enough just to be told. Talent is nothing until you can touch it, wear it, illuminate it, see it. When it mixes with 2, 3 or 4,000. It is useless without sweat, tears and sleepless nights. It is no good if it only speaks to itself. Challenge it, set it on fire and rebuild it from scratch. Blindly trust it, but never totally believe it. You can't find it, but you can learn. Your talent brought you here. It's time to begin.
Thank you for joining in. Today we have the pleasure of getting together and having this conversation. I was hoping by now we'll be in a physical space, but this is where we are at, so why not enjoy the journey? The topic, as you already know, is a roadmap to fashion's new strategic approach. It was a few weeks ago when we at Istituto Marangoni, Mumbai and IFF were deliberating on which direction should we adapt. And in all honesty, it wasn't a difficult choice. Looking at the unparalleled past year, the current challenging times we are facing right now, we knew that we should reach out to our community, our industry, and find the answers, because there are young brands who are not only surviving, but they are maneuvering these tricky times quite successfully. Happenstance, it's a delight that somehow all of the panelists, including I, are IM alumni. We have at one particular point of time have met at that common point. And that's why this particular session is much more personal, I believe, to all of us, because it kind of brings us back together. I'm not going to kind of get into an in-depth introduction of our panel, because many of you already know of them. And I would like them to share their narratives by themselves, because I believe that's where everything becomes more personal. It becomes more relatable. So a quick introduction. We have Roma Narsinghani. Hi, Roma. She is a jewelry designer for her eponymous brand. Then we have Anvita, Mehra, founder and CEO of Confidential Couture. Aavriti Jain, curator and owner of Theatre Dora. Thank you so much, ladies, for sitting down with us. Really appreciate it. So without any further ado, let's jump into the conversation, and in no particular order. Please share your brand story with us, where it all started from. If you could say there was a click moment where everything started making sense. And how did you grow in right now? So anyone, please take a lead. Rohan, would you want to give a start?
Sure. Well, I never really planned on becoming a jewelry designer. It all just sort of happened. I was working at that time was India Lifestyle Fashion Week, and I was working on a show there on another project entirely, and I was just getting a cup of coffee and I was wearing a few of my jewelry pieces, and the designer Anju Modi, she stopped me and she asked me where I got these pieces from. So I told her I made them. Then she's like, you have more? And I actually lied to her and I said, yes, I do have more, when I didn't. I quickly went back and told my boss that, look, Anju Modi wants to use my jewelry for her show, and I have to go back to Bombay and make some more. I quickly called up my jeweler, who was at that time, I was sort of, a friend of mine was doing jewelry, and she's just like, since you like working, well, you can use them for your personal pieces. called him up and I was like, please, I got to make more. Came back to Bombay literally in 3-4 days. It was the first day of fittings, I remember. Went back to Delhi with some 10-12 of them, which were then used at the show. And Ogan spotted them there within a week. The pieces were being sourced for Ogan, and I made the logo literally on Microsoft Word because they had to go up on their press release. So it was really organic. It was never, I mean, we kind of did everything happened in real time. There was no plan as such, and it was just such an organic journey. And I'm so glad that it happened because, I mean, I've always been an artist by heart, and so I'm really glad that it kind of came together on its own. But of course, there are a lot of things that came after it, and I'm really grateful for it.
You are an artist. Right before we went live, we were just discussing about the beautiful background you have.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anvita?
Hi, hello, fellow panelists. It's lovely to be here. I run a platform called Confidential Couture. This was, for me, it was a passion project. It started with me being in undergrad, and I'm talking about 10, 12 years ago. Gosh, I feel old. And I mean, I wanted a trip to Barcelona from London. And, me and my best friend at that point in time, we just wanted to make a quick buck to go to Barcelona. So, we researched and we said, okay, what to do. We ran out of money. And this trip, how are we going to make this happen? And then I'm talking about 2007. I'd always heard about the concept of buying and reselling luxury. But I never researched about it. So there it was. I found a bag that I wanted to sell, which was a present from my dad. But I said, oh, you know what, this is going to go because this is going to fund my trip. So it was as early as that where I was introduced to the concept of buying and reselling, because I was just like, okay, how does it work? So, we quickly, filled up a form and we got a quotation and then the bag sold. And then we were just like, wow, this works. So, and that was that. And I think from there on, I started doing some research on the model. I've been a luxury enthusiast all my life, but I was like, there is a platform there, or there is a need for people to be able to sell these items for whatever reasons. It could be for money, it could be you're bored, XYZ reasons, and for people to be able to get some good deals on these products. So I think that was the whole concept. And I did my, basic research, finished my undergrad, and I came back to India, and there it was. I said, this just has to be done. There has to be a platform which is basically like a money maker and a money saver for a few people. So, and I mean, I'm a startup in the truest sense. I've been in business for now 7 years, but I've been through this struggle, as Roma was saying, that, logos and packaging. And I think I've been through all of that experience. And, here I am today. And in a space which was looked at as a space which was like, what are you talking about? I mean, that's the kind of feedback that I've gotten with pre-owned luxury, especially in a place like India, that are you out of your mind? Why would you do something like this? But yes, I mean, we've all been through that, and every step has been a learning curve, and it's only made me, realize things about the customers, about the audience, and so on. So that's my journey so far.
Thank you. You probably gave some ideas to the students who are watching right now. Sell up a luxury bag and you can travel to Spain. Take on. Thank you. Aavriti?
Yes. By the way, lovely story. I couldn't stop smiling after listening to both of your stories. It's great. However, mine was, I grew up as one of those typical fashion kids. I always knew this is what I wanted to do. I had been designing my dream brand ever since, I think as long as I can look back. So now when I open my journals, I actually have my logo and things, what I want to do and how my store should look like 10 years or 20 years down the line. And I'm still that way. I still write manifestations and this is what I want to do. So I was that child. but yeah, so I was waiting. I've always been excited. I didn't know that it would take a turn, like I would pick jewelry as my field. But it was always to do with design. I was always making bags out of my mother's dupattas, or, I was selling belts at my school so they could carry books. They could tie their books with a belt and carry that instead of a bag, because I don't know, I was always looking for some design sense with commercial sense in a way. And then Thora happened right after my master's in Marangoni. In fact, it started while I was studying at Marangoni. So the logo that you see and a lot of brand shaping was done with my professors, because I was pretty certain that I'm going to start working on a brand right after I finished studying.
So you knew it way beforehand.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I mean, such lovely individual stories, and that shows us there's no one way of doing what you're doing right now. So I'll give a very quick introduction of myself. My name is Rachana Singh. I'll be the moderator for this particular discussion. Just like all of you, I'm an alumni. I've done my MA from Milano, and now I am the professor and the unit leader for fashion business programs, and I'm a brand and sustainability consultant. Speaking of getting this out of the way, Anvita did use a particular word, struggle. So you guys have such lovely stories, but lovely stories has to have some points of twist and turn. So if you could just kindly share your experiences, the challenges that you have faced, and how you made that challenge an opportunity or something positive for yourself and your brand. Anvita, since you used the right keyword, please.
I mean, I would definitely say that they were challenges, but I never thought it was. That's a question that I'm very often asked. That did you think that there was a glass ceiling? And I don't feel like that. I feel like the struggle is very important to shape every business. You have to fall. You have to learn, and it's not based on gender. It's not based on any particular industry. That's my personal perspective. Some of the struggles that I kind of faced with in terms of the industry that I'm in were authenticity. Are you selling original handbags, shoes, accessories? How do we trust you? Trust, I would say, is something that doesn't come very easily to people in India or actually anywhere else, especially with online. So that is something that one had to educate the audiences, and talking about just the whole notion of pre-owned luxury. People didn't understand what was pre-owned, like what do you mean by pre-owned? So I think just the fact that something just had a resale value was so alien to the Indian audiences, at least in the early years. I felt that was a struggle. There's also a lot of stigma around pre-owned and, oh, well, I don't want to use anyone's used item. So just to break through these mindsets according to me, was the biggest challenge that I faced. The mindset, the aspect of authenticity, or whether you're a scam or not. There are a lot of websites that came up in 2015 which were a complete scam. They had addresses in America and they were shipping in India. So there was that little period where people are like, oh, do you even exist? Like, how do we know that you exist and you're legit? So all of these, I think it's definitely, one has to just be at it. You have to give the right kind of information. You have to be present. You have to answer the questions. And no matter how many times you answer, you just answer it. And have a lot more transparency. Even as hard as it is for us to achieve that in India beyond a point, that's very essential. I felt like we as a business were trying to be transparent about who our authenticators were, what were we doing to authenticate. It was never a mystery. And I think that's something that's just worked well for us. So those were some of my struggles. And of course, and in a field that, didn't kind of have a basis before, taxation, legality, etc. Those are the things that one had to figure out, because there was no set, rules and, do's and don'ts for a set kind of industry, because the industry did not exist for luxury items. So yeah, but you're there, and I mean, all of this information is only there to an extent, and then you just really have to get your hands dirty and get on with it. So that's been my experience.
All right, Aavriti?
Yeah, I completely agree with Anvita when she said about taxation. In fact, I still go through struggle because I don't have that background, and I'm just like, half the time when it's account state, it's my worst stage. So, I mean, I still stand on that. So I still am struggling with it. But I think mine was a bunch of things. Actually, I started making jewelry when I was 21, right? When I came back from Milan. And my first stockist was Good Earth. So it was very overwhelming for us. Of course, it was like an achievement, but it was also overwhelming because we were pitted against Amrapali. And I've grown up in Jaipur. So not just Jaipur, even for India, it's really a pride. It's always been like the brand. Only now that we see we have a lot many, costume jewelry designers, even though I hate that word, but yes. So people would love our jewelry, but I guess that time because we would look so young, I guess to sort of convince them that yes, we are still selling you credible, semi-precious silver, gold jewelry was definitely a task. But definitely a learning experience too. And my second challenge was when I was opening up all the retail stores. Of course, currently we're still struggling to sustain the retail stores. That's completely different. That's because of COVID. But I guess while I was getting those made to deal with craftsmen, they won't look at me in the eye, especially in Jaipur. They won't speak to a girl. If I'll speak to a carpenter, they'll be like, call your father or call bhaiya or, things like that. But they just make you tough, I think. I taught them how to look at me in the eye by the end, so they had to deal with me. That's about it.
So you won the battle in a way.
Yeah.
That's great to hear. Roma?
I think for us from the beginning, considering it happened so quickly in a span of a week, I was a jewelry designer. I had to really sort of backtrack and, every day do something new for the brand, whether it's sort of, again, figure out packaging, figure out what the business plan is going to be, because it was never the agenda that, okay, I'm starting a brand. So for the first 6 months, it was, things are moving really fast for us because all of a sudden, in a span of 3 months, we had a lot of celebrities wearing it. The orders increased, increase in production capacity, even finding the right resources. Because when you're making something personally as a hobby and then you jump into having a business and you're getting 100 orders on one piece, it takes, you sort of have to kind of pivot and learn and hire a team because it was just me. So it takes a lot of time to sort of build that strength and that foundation. So for us, I think, for our brand, I think that was the biggest challenge, is that it was all happening together. We were moving ahead and we were creating a brand at the same time, promoted in the market. The other challenge I think that I had was, I think just recently, especially last year, considering everything was on a lockdown and we're a made-to-order brand. So if things are shut, even if things do open up and you can start shipping, for us, that model didn't quite work well because we still have to manufacture it as we get our orders because it's a conscious brand. So instead, last year, we sort of pivoted into a digital space is what we did. So we got a team on board to actually create 3D models. So in case there's a lot still being developed digitally, which are lifelike, where tomorrow we can take it to a jeweler, and it's to the point now my jeweler says that mujhe wo 3D wala design chahiye. Now it's become a routine, where it's of course saved us a lot of resources, carbon footprint, materials, because now we're doing a lot of design development online versus trying to create 5 samples and then choosing one. So I think that definitely was a big challenge that we had in terms of how do we keep everything, keep our team going, and how do we innovate in the space where we not only strengthen our manufacturing process for when things open up, but we also in a way open up a new avenue, which is digital fashion.
So I believe there was an innovation, or rather a different way of doing something that was done in a traditional fashion. So speaking about innovation,
Right.
in what regard would you say has it been integrated in your business models? For example, are you doing video sign-offs? Are there a different way of selling? What has happened wherein you had to implement newer structures? And do you structures that you implemented right now, reacting to the situation we are in, do you think that will have permanency in a way that will sustain or organically grow as the brand grows?
For sure. I mean, in our case, for sure, I think adding a digital team as a permanent element of the brand, I think is definitely here to stay, because like I said, the amount of time that you're saving, the amount, and considering we don't know when things will open up completely. At least for the next year, it seems like we will be working in this manner. But even after that, I don't have to use that much brass anymore. I can do the developments online, select a design, produce the one that I know will work. I can do it to the point where I can fit it on a digital avatar today and see what it looks like on a model, or even going to the extent of what it looks like on me. Like last year when we did the digital collection, we actually turned them into filters just to see what it looks like on our faces, you know? So there's I think technology is something that all of us have had to embrace, and it's for the better and for the worse. I think now what we're trying to learn is how to be digitally sustainable as well, because even when you render something, it's almost like baking. You put something in an oven and it's there for 8 hours, 10 hours. So there's a lot of energy that's being used. So I definitely have to agree that digital, especially for our brand, and I think in many different businesses, it's definitely here to stay.
Anvita, any thoughts?
Right. So I think, the whole COVID-19 situation was absolutely game-changing for most businesses, because, the way you operated before, and, everything was just, north became south, and, one actually had to rethink, reevaluate what was the purpose for a lot of things. We were always a .com. So for us, most of the things were online, but we still had a back-end office. To be able to manage that, to still have a .com running, I think that was a challenge during the initial few weeks. Work from home for a lot of our employees. Also, the products, we don't manufacture. We basically facilitate a transaction between a buyer and a seller. So not having that product, and then to be able to still be, let's just say, relevant was difficult. So we tweaked, of course, our model, because then we gave a lot of power to our sellers to be able to list products themselves, which meant that you have a product to sell today. We will not get it picked up. Of course, we didn't open it to everybody, but people and sellers we worked with before, we offered this option where they could send us some options of products they want to sell, pictures. We actually made them a little self-reliant, and we said that, oh, listen, hey, if you can take good content for us, we will give you a reward in some way. And that's how we kind of, that was our way of innovation, of kind of having listing, relevant listings on the website every day, and even on the buying side as well. We said that you could pay now, and you could pay at a discount, and you could get the delivery later. See, that's the thing. The biggest challenge is to be able to not be forgotten, to have the right compassionate content up on all your platforms. And more than anything else, is just to evolve with time. So the need of the hour was, people still were selling items, because declutter was such a important part first round. Everybody was, apart from the Dalgonas, people were doing decluttering and getting into that space. So we obviously caught on to that and said that, look, you can declutter and you can sell things that you didn't think that you could ever sell. So just adapting, I think, is very important. With this pandemic or any other situation that comes up. We had demon in India, we had a GST. So you just have to, I feel like every now and then there would be obviously, hopefully not a world pandemic anytime soon. But with time, there are situations and businesses just have to adapt. What you've done in the past may no longer be relevant today. And of course, as a business promoter, I feel like what's the most important is just to keep your employees on the same page as you, because I think that was a very big challenge for work from home, because we all get into a certain kind of routine, and then how do you break away from it? So just keeping that was a big challenge for us. But as long as you tune in and there is structure, even in work from home, it's great. So I think these were my challenges as a business to kind of adapt into a more listing model rather than just pick up and delivery, and because we didn't have that at all.
Thank you. Aavriti?
Yeah, I think since we're talking about innovation, yes, for sure. I personally really had to, because my business is divided into two fields. One is a jewelry brand, and then we have a store, which is a concept store, and that's completely retail. And I'm still a flag holder for, retail, touch and feel, and the whole experience of it, because what else would you do if you go on a holiday next? So retail stores have to survive, but that's another challenge. But I guess in terms of innovation, I've always seen our company being innovated in 3 different steps. First would be ecological. That's when we took out this policy called Green Dhura, where, as Roma said, we truly can't really be sustainable as a jewelry maker, because we're making jewelry out of brass. So we started this policy where you could return back your jewelry. The plus point with metal is that we can always melt it again and create something new. So that's one thing which we started. And surprisingly, we got a very good response on it. So I realized that it's great to, show that human spirit in your brand and show your vulnerability and tell your audience that, you can't be sustainable, but you could be mindful. So we started tweaking a little, a few things here and there, like we started packaging in upcycled saris. We don't have like a designated, which we used to, white mull bag before. Now it's all up, and people appreciate that too. Second element would be economy, economical sustainability. That's when, like you all said, yes, we are moving into, now we have a designated digital team. Half of the time it's me. I'm clicking my own pictures because I can't find a model in the lockdown. And I'm sure you all relate to it. So that's the second bit. And lastly is cultural, which Anvita mentioned. Completely agree to sort of make sure that, you're providing to the needs of the people you're working with, even if it's just a call to sort of ask them if they're doing okay, to make sure they're getting their jabs right now, to make sure they're happy working, if their children are going to school, just basic things. I know it's really basic for me to even spell it out, but it really helps. You actually feel like you are in a happier environment that way. So,
yeah. You used one particular word, and that was more about human factor. And we have seen that there's a bit of a transition that has happened from the consumer point of view, how the consumer were then and how the consumers are right now. There's a bit of transition, or rather, there's a bit of a debate that has been happening, going on everywhere. Is this a permanent shift, or it is just for the moment? And once everything opens up, we go back to our so-called normal life, our consumption is going to accelerate the way it was then. So the entire concept of green or sustainable practices will be kind of filtered down, or will take a back seat. What do you reckon is your thought about it? Because, in a very strong way, sustainable. We are looking into kind of consuming and reconsuming something that has been created maybe 10 years to 20 years ago. But do you think it's here to stay, or is it just the need of the hour and then we go back?
I don't think brands are going to be relevant in the next 10 years if they're not sustainable. I mean, look at the damage that we've caused already. I mean, as brands and as human beings. So I think everyone is starting to realize that when they were looking up in the sky and when there was no pollution, I mean, and everyone being at home themselves started creating these mindful changes in your everyday life. I think all of that will implicate in terms of how you consume as well in a big way. I mean, of course, there will be a certain section of the market that is going to revenge buy after this. We all know that. But even in terms of the brands that, I mean, the consumers that are looking at purchase, the millennials, you're kind of looking at an audience that is really in tune with how a brand is talking to you. What sort of lasting impression are we leaving on them? I think it's about that connection with the consumer, and helping them make that natural choice to come towards you rather than what the model was earlier, which was extremely trend driven. So I think sustainability is here to stay. I mean, all of us need to do our part and in some ways hopefully become completely sustainable at some point. Even a Patagonia hasn't been able to manage that, but we have to strive to sort of do better every day, like Aavriti said, like even in terms of whether it's your packaging, small elements, and all these little things will educate the customer a lot more for them to make that natural purchase, for them to be educated and to make the right choices eventually. So I mean, of course, consumers are going to be more mindful now more than ever. And of course, it's sort of taken a hit even on everyone's wallets as well, right? So I think when it comes to investments, those things will change. I think considering weddings have now become smaller, I definitely see a lot more brides investing in a lot of gold, and even people who are buying diamonds. I think nanotechnology has done wonders in terms of making, that space truly traceable to sort of understand conflict diamonds, or even consumers looking at lab generated diamonds. So I think there is a lot of interesting product that's going to be coming up because there's a consumer for it, and you'll only see more and more people supporting that, I feel.
I read a very lovely article that stated in Forbes that right now investing in luxury brands is especially bags, historical luxury bags, is a much more smarter investment rather than art. So, Anvita, have you seen the transition happen, or it was just that one-off article?
Honestly, the West works very differently from India. I think India is on a different, we're still far behind in understanding that luxury items can have future resale value. Of course, having said that, the trend has changed in this one last year. We definitely seen that transition in people where they're making smarter choices. Now today, like if we have a buyer for something, we call it CC Infinity. It's actually called Confidential Couture Infinity. It helps you determine the future resale value of your today's purchase. So now more people want the thing that I'm buying today, the item that I'm buying today, what is going to be the future resale value? In terms of monetary, just talking about obviously because people would want to make smarter choices, given that, the pandemic has hit their pockets. That's one, but also they want to know what is going to go up in value or not. Whether, if they're buying something at today's value, what are they buying? What are the brands that appreciate in value? So these are questions that we've been asked now a lot more than we did before. So our sales executives are often asked, oh, this is a bag that I see on your website. Do you think that in 2025 or 2026, I'd be able to get what I paid for it? So it's slowly changing, where they think that the retail value has to increase. So obviously not as much as gold, and also the ones that have obviously investment like options such as your Birkins and Kellys of the world. They're already very expensive. So that is a choice that people have to make, which is obviously going to affect their pockets even more. So while the interest is there, I don't think people are right now necessarily purchasing just because, oh, I should park my money in a bag. They're obviously much more open to it. And the fact that, oh, well, I can have that bag and it doesn't lose value. I think that's where the model is kind of making sense to them. Internationally, of course, everywhere else in the world, there's not a better investment than handbags. Because, I mean, if you look at a Louis Vuitton, the most normal one, a Speedy 30, the retail has gone up 12% year on year. So when you hear of these numbers, you're just like, okay, well, 12% is my return. And then you back calculate, you're just like, okay, well, I will end up making money and I might be able to use it as well. So it's, it's not so after all.
That's really interesting to hear about how, and I'm glad that perception in India is changing, and we're seeing a lot of transition around it. So speaking about transitions, we have a very affectionate and obsessive relationship with jewelry. I mean, we for how we love our jewelry, we love it. But at the same time, this relationship in today's day and time is, again, there's evolving. There's something that is kind of transitioning. There's some movement that is kind of happening right now. How do you think it's going to develop in the near future? And how do you think we are going to react to something that is so affectionate and ingrained in our culture, or rather in our DNA as well? Roma, if you want to take lead.
I think in our case, the one big difference that we've seen is personalization. I think especially starting this year, we have made so many custom pieces, whether it's someone buying something for themselves, that a motive that they're attached to, or they're gifting it to someone, and everyone wants something that's unique. They don't want everything that's out there anymore because or of course, I mean, Zoom meetings and all of that, your traditional earrings, all of those will do well. But I think the relationship with jewelry has sort of gone further than it just being an ornament. Today, you want to wear something, even if it's a talisman piece. There's a meaning behind it, something that you connect with, something that gives you safety in a strange manner, or something you can remember someone by, and or when you're wearing the piece, it almost has to become every day, but every day to a level of an emotional attachment, I feel. So I think personalization is key. I think that's something that, and even if it would be done on a mass scale, so if it's one product that can maybe have monograms or different elements of personalization, even the idea of charms, which I know Dora has been doing really well. I mean, and there are many brands right now that are doing that. Even for us, we've sort of started creating little pieces that you can wear as a keychain, then you can wear it as a neck piece. So it kind of also moves into functional jewelry, where one piece can be modular and worn in many different ways, or the jewelry should have some purpose as well. For example, we at the beginning of this year, we launched our collection of sanitizers and fragrances that you could attach it to your keys, you could attach it to your bag as a charm, or you could wear it on your neck. Because, I mean, I'll tell you a little bit about it. What happened is that last year, every time I was going out, I realized I was putting my hand in my bag, in my big tote, trying to search for this damn sanitizer, which was always plastic. So I wanted to come up with a product that looks good, but also serves the purpose. And plus, you can keep refilling the sanitizer at home with anything that you may have at home. So you don't have to kind of go back to the brand again, So I think the idea of functionality, I think that's where I definitely see jewelry moving towards. We're seeing that with a whole bunch of brands. And I think personalization also, like especially custom pieces.
I think. Aavriti?
Yeah, I completely agree with Roma. Roma, by the way, big fan of those sanitizer.
Thank you.
Made.
Thank you.
But yes, I completely agree. It is so true. We've been making these, Urdu motive necklaces personalized. People get their names or their friend's name, and that's really good, doing well. So it's definitely for that. But also, I feel if you go back into jewelry, like Roma mentioned about talisman, even back in the day, even hunters would sort of hang the bones of the animals they've killed on there, and they would make it into a necklace, right? So it's always been about memory, or it could also be a mix of like luxury and to sort of boost your ego, because you're still wearing gold, or you're still hanging those bones or whatever. So it's that, and number two, what we've been, personally tried to do past a month or so is sort of make jewelry, like multi-purpose. So if you see our latest collection that's completely upcycled with the extra, bearings we found in other factories. So the new Kundan Meena collection, that's actually not our forte at all. Those are just surplus products which we found, and we made them into something more minimal, so people don't have to wait for a wedding in order to wear a Kundan Meena choker or a charm, And as I said before, in that way, you're also supporting a small community based in a certain part of Jaipur. So it works both ways.
You used a very interesting word right now, minimal. And minimal luxury is something that is kind of happening in our landscape as well, in the Indian luxury market as well. We are seeing a shift towards minimal. Less is more. That concept is kind of, happening as we speak. What more would you reckon would be a future holding for us from the luxury point of view? Where do you think we are moving towards?
Should I start? Do you want to start, Anvita?
Oh, please. Yeah, please.
Yeah, okay.
Go on.
Yeah, I just feel, because you actually asked a similar question before, I am very optimistic of the future. I just feel if we ourselves, like all of us as brands, if we are making small steps, if we're having conversations like these, we're definitely not too far from future. And thankfully, we do all work on trends. And it is kind of a trend to go for the sustainable brand or be more conscious. Like suddenly we were all eating avocados, or we were all, so we are all into trend. We all do follow trends. So if this is how it's going to be, I think it's great. We're and I've realized that if you set your values very openly to the public, you end up working with really talented people. And through this, we got a chance to work with such talented students. They actually took out a small strategy come software for us, where if I have 10 clients today for Delhi, and they're all from NCR, I get to dispatch one big box of jewelry all together to them, and we therefore save, the logistic side of it. So we're more sustainable that way. And if you agree to wait it out for 2-3 days as a customer, and you're okay to, sort of be sustainable instead, we give you 10% off. So ideas like these, I was really fascinated, and people are welcoming, they're open to it too. So, yeah.
That's an absolutely interesting approach. Anvita, you were saying something?
Right. So for us, we are a sustainable model. We've always been. That was always the idea. You buy more, you sell more, and it's all like a circle. So we've by default, we are sustainable. So for us, that's definitely a great start. But seeing the trend now, of course, businesses will have to be more sustainable. There would be practices that which would have less impact on, the global carbon footprint. All of these are very important. Of course, maybe like we are a sustainable concept, but we are doing things. We launched something known as a spa service, which is a cleaning service. You may not want to buy or resell something, but you might just want to clean it up and to give it a fresh look. So, spa is obviously looked at extending a life cycle of a product, so that you don't have to buy new. So that's something that we've done. We've also done, where there's a damaged product. It was very interesting. We had a lady who had a handbag, which is a Louis Vuitton, expensive, all of that. And it had actually a very big hole in on the front. And what we did was that, otherwise it'd be completely a waste. We started doing patchworks to make the product look a lot more quirky and fun. So that's something we've obviously tied up with a few artists who do, hand painted panels, or, these small stickers for the products to make them interesting. Of course, as humans, I feel like the reason why we buy new items is because a part of it, we like newer things. We like fresh looks. So of course, that's one element. The other thing is obviously revamping what you have. So that's something that we've done, and we've so far gotten a good response on our version of a remake of a luxury handbag or any other accessory. Sometimes ties are used as bag straps. We've kind of like innovated that as well, and we're just trying to do our bit to be sustainable.
I hope you can send us a picture of that. We would love to have a look at it. It'll be interesting. Aavriti, I have to come back to you because you're the one with the retail space. Now, how do you see this retail space is going to, what more role will your space have to kind of cater to? Because as you said, we really are a person of touch and feel. Even now we like to go to stores and buy products, but do you think just going to a store and buying products is going to be good enough? How will we get, because many times people are time poor. They are absolutely time poor. I mean, in a way, that's why online is kind of a lifesaver for many of us. So what more are you kind of thinking about or adapting within your structure when once things hopefully open up really soon?
So yeah, firstly, I really hope things open up soon, because the rent really hurts. But apart from that, I think one feature which we started after COVID, and which we continue to take it on, because you said like people are now more conscious. They'll be scared initially, and also they're time bound. So we've started something called phone shopping, which is basically we have our team and they like how you FaceTime. So we basically take them through the store. We have tried to make the whole store, digitized, but you can shop. But it's, to be very honest, it's very difficult to maintain inventory on digital. If you have your entire store sort of captured in one go, because we work with different brands. Our store is a concept store, so all that you see is actually a curation of different designers and brands. So and things keep coming and going. So it's very difficult to keep that stationary. Phone shopping is one way, which people are liking. They're more comfortable with it, and I think that will go on.
All right. Well, I would love to continue this conversation, but we have a plethora of questions that have kind of come to us, and I'm going to just quickly peep into my phone. So just be patient with me, and I'm going to throw the questions at you. There's someone, Vikrant Gambhir, I hope you're here right now. The question here is, would slow fashion be the trend in the post-pandemic times? Would the consumer be more towards simplicity, or the spending will hit similar pre-pandemic levels? I think we have touched upon that. Yeah, we have spoken about the consumer, the changing behavior patterns. So I think we are all in a good space. Then there's something came in from Arish M. Will the new approach be inclusive to people across socio-economic backgrounds? Now that's a very interesting question. So what are your thoughts about it? Will the new approach be inclusive to people across all socio-economic backgrounds?
Yeah, I mean, I can speak for the jewelry people. I think we are already pretty, I think as fashion, it's one of the very few industries which is actually very inclusive. It already is kind of inclusive. So I think we're already catering to all socioeconomic backgrounds. That's what I feel.
Okay, I'll come back to you. Sorry, Roma, you were saying?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if we're talking about socioeconomic cultures, it kind of spreads into a few zones, right? You've got, I think, even being conscious is one aspect to it. It's also in this sort of postmodern liquid era. That's a whole different aspect of it. We're talking about, again, going into digital. Then you're talking about various subcultures that come within it as well. So I think it's a pretty broad question because it also involves, and jewelry does that fabulously well, whether it's gender fluid jewelry today. I think that's something that every brand is, I mean, we must and we have to, and I think that's how jewelry should be, you know. So I think it kind of like of course, you know, it basically means that pretty much every brand is including an element of one aspect of a socio-economic group. So I don't see each brand meeting every target, but there will be one brand that will work out for that certain niche and then celebrate that.
Anvita?
I think as a, I mean, for us, we do bridge the gap between people who want to buy and people who want to sell in as just a concept. So, I mean, we obviously try to be as inclusive because the more people that can afford to buy these things, we make it even affordable, right? For a strata of society that did not think that they'd be able to afford something. So from the economic point of view, we try our best to be inclusive. Of course, that being said, this is very important where if you know, as a brand, and I feel that in the future, if you project yourself to be non-inclusive, you know, there is that is something that really works very well. So as just whether it's economic, whether it's social, it definitely has to be inclusive, and the less gap that people see, and the less disparity that people see, the better it is for brands in general.
I hope that answers Arish's question. Then there's one from Sarita Kandikar. New challenges present new discrepancies in a complex consumer landscape. What advice would you give to sustain as well as cope as a brand? Quite an interesting throw at us. Because, yeah, this is new challenges, obviously, kind of shakes up the system where we are at. This is what we are doing right now, rethinking about the new approaches that we might bring to the near future. So if there's any particular advice that you can give to a brand to not only sustain, but cope with it and develop, organically thrive and develop?
I think the first and foremost thing to understand changing consumer behavior. I think that would be the most important way and technique to sort of sustain any brand in any industry. That's what change, adapt to what. Only then can we change our supply and our models and pivot in a certain manner. And of course, to sort of understand environmental challenges and to keep upgrading on that front and learning about new ways and new technologies to be able to adapt that to a brand, to be able to sustain it so that it's future forward.
All right. Any other advice that we can provide to them? All right. Thank you. Sarita, I believe you have gotten me an answer over there and it helps you in the future. Ashwinder Singh, what's the potential for Indian brands to go international?
Sorry, I missed the question.
Yeah.
The question is, what's the potential for Indian brands to go international? I mean, how can we have a local brand become really global, not only in its approach, but to reach out to a wider audience?
I can take that. I think one interesting way for young brands to sort of do this is to actively participate in a lot of competitions. I think that's what we did with Roma and Narsinghani. And it really helped us sort of put us on the map in that sense. I mean, really a dot on the map, but still there. for example, we were part of Vogue Talents, and then we applied for the Sustainable Design Challenge, which was by Helsinki Fashion Week. Once we got that opportunity, there was a Vogue Italia that was looking at it, and from there we got Super Talents. We did, in fact, it was at Marangoni, L Graduates, the yearly sort of event that they did. So I was a part of it as well. I didn't win it, but Rahul Mishra was one of the judges, and he came across my work, which gave us an opportunity to collaborate with, I love his work, and I'm so grateful that we got that opportunity to be able to collaborate with him for Paris Fashion Week. So I think as younger brands, if you sort of put yourself out there and sort of innovate and create a collection and apply for these competitions while being completely and showing what sets you apart, will at least give you that step and put you in the eyes of certain media publications, certain jury, for more people to sort of know and understand your work. And it also helps you learn, because I think what happens, especially with Vogue Talents for us, was mine got an opportunity to go and sit in front of Sara Suzani, Bandana Tiwari, Evelyn Mora, and ask the questions that I always wanted to ask, and ask them that, okay, how do I pivot from here? These are my doubts. These are my roadblocks. What do you recommend I do? So I think, I don't know in terms of big international success, but I think a small step to at least having your name out there and have opportunities of even sourcing at stores that outside, I think interesting way to go.
Interesting. Thank you. And next time, maybe when we all get together, and it's going to become an IM alumni meet, so we definitely get Rahul on board as well. So thank you for giving me that idea.
Yes, yeah.
Oh,
yeah, for sure.
Oh, he's a lovely chap. I mean, whenever he was at school, it's super fun to speak with him, correspond with him, such brilliant ideas and visionary. Another one has come in, that is from... Sorry, you were saying something?
No, I was just saying that we were actually really lucky when we went for the Paris Fashion Week show. It was Marangoni's school that we were all doing our fittings, and whether it's, most of the castings, all of that was happening at Marangoni. So I have to say, in terms of the school, there's a lot of support a designer gets after that they've graduated, and I think that's amazing.
I believe you have answered quite loads of questions that were coming our way, so that's sorted. Well, we have time to take just a few more. One is from Shreya, talking about digital and taking more steps into the digital dimension, as it can help brands be more sustainable. What are brands looking for in a digital manager? So if she wants to, or somebody wants to become a digital manager, what are the key takeaways you would recommend the person should, or the skill sets the person should carry forward?
So I think that's should I take this one?
Please.
Okay, I feel, again, digital manager or like digital field in itself is now such a wide term. It's a business in itself. So I feel even that has a lot of small categories. One would be only taking care of customer service, which is all digital. One would be taking care of social media, which is also now divided into, 5-6 categories. So I think the more specific and focused you get in terms of your skill, the better it is, because any company who's going to hire you, or even if it's for your own brand, the more focused knowledge that you gain, I think that's better.
All right. Any other suggestions?
I think, exactly what, like she said, I think it's a big space, right? I think if the question was more specific to what everything has a digital extension today. But if you're talking about as a digital manager in terms of design, or, if it's a digital designer, then of course it's sort of learning the tools of the trade, learning the softwares, and, understanding how to create the avatars, how to create the 3D models, renders, and then how to apply that with your offline model. And of course, otherwise digital can be managing social media, for which again, one would have to either get that experience and work, whether it's digital media. The question is honestly really broad because literally everything has a digital extension today.
Why
But this is
don't
as far
you
as I
speak
can think
about
of.
it from a design perspective, and maybe Anvita can take it from a business perspective, so we can capture it and
Yeah, so like I
answer both sides of the coin.
Sure. So, like I said, for design, I think it's about learning and getting updated with all the softwares that are there, whether it's Flow and there's so SolidWorks, which is mainly for. So, I think really and using being able to and hone your craft in that sense will help you sort of lead the way in terms of create strong digital design, which can necessarily only communicate. So move towards actually promoting it. So whether it's even through your, I'll give you an example. If one had to do a digital campaign versus a real advertising campaign, for that you would have to learn how to have a model, create the pieces, create the 3D model, but then create a render of it also. They're both different to one another. You know, the 3D model assists you to actually create the actual product. The render is something that you can use as images, promotional material, and of course to show it to your clients and for internal communication.
Right. Anvita, from the business point of view?
From the business point of view, I think like a digital manager, what the most important is that the approach has to be conversion driven. For every business, I think that is the most important. You know, what the budget is going to be, let's say for any business to set a amount, what are the conversions looking like? So to have that and to have a balance between, of course, getting the right number of conversions and getting good design. So I think that balance I often find is, you know, either we're completely conversion led or we're completely design led. So just striking that balance, that would be my advice.
All right. I think we can kind of, you know, dial down the questions because there's like plethora. I don't know how much or how many more we can cater in such a short span. And there's someone over here that said, Raghunandan. He said, look forward to seeing you all during this meeting. So I hope we have given Raghunandan what he's looking for, what was he was looking for. Speaking about beautiful young brands, I would have to say that listening to your journey, your narrative, your willingness to be so generous with sharing experiences, I'm sure our audiences have a lot of key takeaways from it. And as Aavriti did say, we will keep on having this dialogue. And as we all know, in Marangoni, we do that. We always have these masterclasses. We reach out, we speak to the community, we have dialogue going. And hopefully we will keep on doing it as we move along. And next time, you will be on campus with enjoying the deck with an aperitivo or prosecco in hand and just relaxing for once. And hopefully, in the near future, we are able to do that as soon as possible. And I wish you all the very best for your future ventures, and not just from this life, but even personal life and happy. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you want to say something to the lovely audience, please go ahead. The field is all yours.
Thank you. You know, I think the moment I saw a mail coming from Marangoni and all of you guys as panelists, I've really never met Roma. I've still spoken to her a bunch of times. I've seen a lot of work of Anvita online, but I'm just so happy to have done this, and you were such a good host, Rachana. Thank you.
It is just such amazing to converse with. Don't give me any credit. It's just all of us were having such a good conversation. Sorry, Anvita, you were saying.
This session has been lovely because, you know, one always thinking of their field and the business that, you know, you're almost in your own cocoons. So it was insightful to know what you guys as jewelry brands are doing and thinking of strategies. And, you know, we all learn from one another. So I think it's a great community, and thank you. And this has been lovely.
Thank you so much. Roma?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It was so good to actually see everyone, and it was intense, and I hope we really get to do this again, hopefully in person. Yeah, thank you so much.
We definitely will. I'll find a way to make that happen. So we'll be seeing each other soon physically. Thank you so very much once again. Take care.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
It's always like I feel like I will have heart attacks before the show.
I think we were really lucky to have such a great time at Marangoni. Anything's possible. Follow your dream, create what you love, and nothing's impossible.
I would love to be a student again. I would easily do the whole course again.
This fantastic school and this fantastic job and career that I expect you after will always pay you back in satisfaction.